his fantasy and his hatred towards women.
The cult compound there went up in flames. It burned to the ground. 112 people inside, 17 of them children.
Beth was stabbed approximately 114 times. A lot of rage, a lot of anger.
The Borchis hid a shotgun and revolver under his trench coat when he entered the school that morning.
I was scared for my life.
It is just unspeakable evil.
She is evil. That is the face of evil.
I had a pretty rough child growing up, so when I quit drinking and bought the house here and decided to straighten my life up, I wanted to make sure that what I went through, she didn't go through. I built big swings out in the back. She said, "Daddy, come swing me." I went and swung her. When Daddy helped me with my homework, I'd go lay on the floor and help her with homework. Go fishing, bowling, give her a life that I had, dysfunctional family I was brought up, and I said, that ain't gonna happen. I love my little girl.
There's Miss Canara. She's not gonna say anything.
Bob Carrero was the dad of Canara Carrero, brutally murdered July 20th of 1992 with her best friend, Kristen Wiley. I was going through a lot. I tell you, I said that God put her in my life to heal me. And when he was done, he took her to go heal somebody else.
911, what is your emergency?
I think I found a dead body.
Okay, let me give you, do you want the ambulance out there too?
Yes, please.
Okay, stay on the line now and I'll give you the sheriff's department ambulance.
Please, hey! My sister's dead!
Your sister is dead?
I think so, hey!
You think it's a dead body, but do you know the person?
Yes, I'm not sure. Where's my sister? I'm my sister's friend.
You tell me what happened.
I don't know. Please, just hurry. I don't care what happened. Hurry!
The ambulance is on the way and I'm sending the deputy also. You can't tell me what happened? You can't tell me anything?
No, it looks like they got dead or something.
I was at work. I worked for a company, trucking company at the time. And I got a call. I was out making deliveries, and I got a call from the terminal manager saying that something's happened to your daughter and they need to get you out there right away.
I'm in the middle of the day, in the middle of a middle-class neighborhood. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, their bodies were just a bad scene. It was just like a real-life Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I'm Andy Kahn, Director of Victim Services, Crime Stoppers.
I couldn't even get down the street, let's put it that way. There were so many cops and everything, just everywhere. So I tried to go towards the house and they kept me back. So I said, I went across the street from where they had gotten killed at Kristen's house and sat up on a bag of bark mulch sitting out in the yard trying to get some kind of answers as to what was going on. They didn't tell us for, I think it was probably about 2 hours before they actually told us that the girls were dead. Yeah, I was just wanting to die myself, just sitting there. He gave him a story of there was a black man and a Spanish man playing hide and seek in the yard. And that he sent the police on a wild goose chase, chasing them that, something didn't even exist. And so they spent like 3 days out there chasing the ghost and just ignoring the fact that he had blood on the fence and so forth, and just really didn't much look at him for the first few days.
There are people that have just heard about it either on the radio or television and are concerned.
Ellie Marshall and about 100 others showed up early. They came to look for evidence that might lead to the killer of 2 innocent little girls. 7-year-old Kenara Carrero and 10-year-old Kristen Wiley were both found in Kristen's home, stabbed to death. Both had been sexually molested.
This has been, I don't know how many times I've had to say this, the most horrific period of my entire life.
The horrible, unthinkable crime is the emotional bond that brought these folks together to help find clues in the bayou and surrounding woods. Local businesses helped too. They've donated food, beverages, and tools.
The thing that has helped us in the family to get through it is the support of our friends, of our neighbors, and of the community.
Wearing familiar pink ribbons, searchers wage war against the killer of children. Their weapons are weed eaters to clear the land 1 mile on either side of the bayou. Some use metal detectors like fine-toothed combs, while others drag the bottom of the shallow creek with magnets.
Possible weapon, possible anything that might have been taken out of that house that we haven't been able to locate yet. Anything.
If the searchers find anything that's even remotely suspicious, they're not to touch it or handle it in any way. Just place a marker near it. Nothing is overlooked. Even a rusty nail will be closely examined.
Take everything.
Robert Guerrero spearheaded this task force. He wears his beloved daughter's rings close to his heart to bolster his resolve to find the killer. A determination that seems to need no reminder.
When this guy sees that we're out here, he's going to realize that we're going to get him. I personally am not going to stop until he's caught.
Well, the whole damn thing was crazy. They had like 5 different detectives working on it, and they came up with like 5 different suspects. And it was crazy as hell because you could go in and sit down and talk. Each detective was assigned to a certain person. So, you're here just going crazy because you got 5 different suspects, you got 5 different detectives telling you each one of these did it. Johnny Clevenhagen was the sheriff at the time. He didn't like me, for the things that I talked about. I cast a bad light on his department, on the way he handled the investigation on a lot of things.
The county recently assigned its 7th and 8th detectives to this case. Now they say that's just routine. Everyone is working on a different angle. The parents figure new investigators were called in to clean up a host of mistakes. Last July 20th, Kenara and Kristen were sexually assaulted, then stabbed repeatedly. Kristen's brother found the girls' bodies sprawled over his bed. That night, a neighbor described a man he claimed fled the murder scene. A composite sketch was even circulated, but he later confessed such a man never existed. But that lie misdirected authorities during the critical first 3 days of the case. It also seemed to trigger an avalanche of questions about the investigation itself.
If they had gone out and canvassed the neighborhood that night, they would have found out that the neighbor who gave the false composite drawing was a compulsive liar.
The girls' parents charged detectives missed questioning several key families on the street. They also believe the crime scene was not properly secured. It did not include that next-door neighbor's yard, which had the blood leading over to the neighbor's yard.
The article of clothing that was supposed to have been sent off for DNA testing and sat in the evidence room for 4 months. Just unacceptable.
Parents also point to incomplete lab tests 1 year later.
This thing with the sheriff's department is just unacceptable, and it should be to everybody in this community.
I feel like it has been handled properly, very thoroughly. No slip-ups, no mistakes? No, not at all. The captain of Harris County's homicide department stands by her detectives. Her orders were to give only a prepared statement. It reviews the general facts of the case and goes on to say, the motive for these girls' death is still unknown. Some evidence still remains at labs waiting test results. Frustrated and angry, Kenara's mother and stepfather called the Texas Rangers last week.
He wanted somebody, just anybody, to come in and take over. And we've heard good things about the Texas Rangers.
Kristen's parents would support such a move. They, too, believe mistakes were made, but blame them on understaffing. The county has 22 homicide detectives who also work assault cases.
Perhaps the Sheriff's Department needs help with, they need to turn it over to the Texas Rangers or the FBI because, like I said, they don't have the manpower.
Last week, Kenara's mother met with the DA's office and the Sheriff's Department to make just that request. During that meeting, she learned
a lot of things that I did not realize were being done.
Are you happy to leave it with the Sheriff's Department at the head of the investigation?
That's a real hard question.
I'm trying to tell them that, you need to be doing this or checking that. I said, what can I do? You as officers, police officers, are restricted from doing some things. Now, as a private citizen, I know there's things that I can do that you can't do to help me out. Let me know. I ain't gonna lay down. I ain't gonna go away. I'm gonna be the biggest pain in the ass to the cops they've ever seen in their lives, and I'm not gonna go away. Every time something starts to die down, come up with something new to get it back in the news again so that whoever killed them knows you're never going away. I'm never gonna let it go away. You're gonna have to kill me. I ain't never going away. I'm never gonna let this be a cold case, ever. And that's why I followed him around. A lot of my biker buddies, we kept an eye on him.
So you did surveillance on him?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I found out the bars that he hung out. I wouldn't say a damn word to him. He'd look up and he'd see me sitting across the bar from him. Wouldn't say nothing. I sat in front of his house with a shotgun laying across my lap when he moved in with his dad, after he moved out of the neighborhood. So every time he turned around and looked, it was either one of my friends or myself, keeping an eye on him. He started trying to date women. I'd call him up and tell him who he was. So everything he did, I was detriment to him. Couldn't get a date, couldn't find work. I was always there watching him. He was doing some clown work out of, I think it was a Kmart, and heard he was there. I had to call up a couple of my buddies on the bikes and went by there, ran them off. So he was in a tight spot, and that's what it boiled down to. He knew that I wasn't going to go anywhere. I think the pressure was on from the very beginning. Like I said, I didn't sleep. At 18 months, I didn't sleep hardly at all. Out following him, chasing around. And I'd just become so exhausted, I'd have my daughter's pictures or whatever, and I'd come back from out doing something, and I'd have to walk around the house and lay the pictures face down. Say, I'm sorry, baby, I just got to take a break right now. And try to rest up and start all over again.
I'll tell you what, yesterday I found out something we didn't talk about. They say they have some kind of evidence. They're saying you were in the house when this happened. They said they got proof that it wasn't the day before, it wasn't the day after, it wasn't 2 weeks before that. I think I've gotten to know you pretty well. You care about your kids, you care about your wife. I'm having a hard time with this. I think there's got to be an explanation. These people don't lie. Let me tell you about the FBI. When it comes to processing things, they're the best in the world. There's no comparison. I don't think you intentionally do anything. I'll check your back, right? You've never been in jail as far as I know. I don't know that you hurt these girls. I don't know that. If I did know that, we wouldn't be having this conversation. If there is a reason, please tell us. Tell me, it's just you and me in this one.
And I says, I tell you, Bill, you got 2 years. If you don't find out who it is, I will. I told him, and he said, when I wanted to turn around and walk, he said, just get a confession. I said, done. I'll string them up and skin them.
What stopped you?
It was to do the right thing. To do it right. If I kill him, I'd end up in jail. What good was that going to do for my little girl? As much as I wanted to go do some bad things, it kept me kind of in check. You know? It was always a chance. Always a chance. It might not have been him, because they had the other suspects. So, if I want to kill the wrong guy, if I kill the wrong guy, that's going to be a detriment to me ever seeing her in the hereafter.
My full name is Rex Warren Mays. I'm a white male, 34 years of age, having been born on January 21st, 1960. On July 20th, 1992, I had just been fired from Exxon USA. Being upset from losing my job, I stopped the car a couple houses down and west of my house on Fair Force. I sat there thinking about what I was going to tell my wife. I walked up the Wiley's driveway to the front door. I heard real loud music, so I walked in and I called out Kristen's name. I'm not sure if they saw me, but they turned and ran towards the back of the house. I shouted out, "Why don't you turn the music down?" I went down the hall to tell them to turn the music down. Kenara said, "No, we're not going to turn it down. Just get out of the house." Here, I had just gotten fired, and some kids telling me no. I walked into the kitchen, and this is when I lost it. It was like something came over me. I remember grabbing a sharp object. I think it was a knife. There was a block of wood with knives in it. After grabbing the object and hearing the girl scream, I turned and saw them run back towards the back of the house. I followed them into the bedroom and just started stabbing Kristen. Kenara started to run out of the bedroom, and when she got to the door, I stepped in front of her and I started stabbing her backside. I continued to stab her in her face to take her eyes out so she couldn't identify me. It seemed like I was reacting to what I'd been taught in the Marine Corps. After I was through with Kenara, I turned my attention to Kristen. I don't remember exactly how many times I stabbed her in the face, but it was several.
Mays was standing outside his yard, acting like he was going to help us. My ex-wife, we just had a new baby a month ago, and she was pacing the sidewalk, just crying her eyes out. And he actually come out, him and his wife come out and try to console us. And that was just crazy after the fact, learning that, you know, he was #1 suspect at the time.
We walked over to Becky Wiley, who was standing in the front yard. She told Nancy, "My baby and Kenara are in the house and they'd been shot." I invited several deputies into our house. We got them water and Cokes and stuff. I tried to be helpful. I was trying to make them think someone else had done the killings.
And then, just like you see in the movies, you know, the quote, concerned neighbor, who little did we know at the time, offers to help and, you know, gets involved, you know, and, you know, trying to help find, quote, the suspect. That way they feel connected to it. It's kind of like an adrenaline flow for them. Like, I know what I did, you have no idea, but I'm gonna pretend that I'm gonna, you know, help, you know, solve this case.
The next day, after I took Nancy to work, I washed the bloody clothes I had on. I drove down to the west end of Fair Forest and turned into the dead end. I parked the car and walked down by the ravine. I threw the knife in the water. I'm not sure why I have such a bad temper sometimes.
So you think it was you, though, constantly hounding him?
Well, I don't know. I played out that way. You know, played out that way.
I'd do anything to have my daughter back. To ever give this person that did cut my daughter's eyes out and mutilated her, we need to deal with them at all costs. The bottom line is the vow that I made to my daughter, that I'll just tell him that I want to be there so that he can look in my eyes when he goes. In my view, it's too easy. Somebody asked me the other day about me viewing the execution. And, you know, does that add to the brutality of the situation? Well, I don't believe so. I think what he did to those little girls was brutal. But him getting a needle stuck in his arm and going to sleep is nowhere near the same. There's no comparison.
And when my little girl was born, I was there at the hospital, and when she came out, she was handed to me, and all I can say is at that point I knew what love was. I knew what unconditional love was.
The way I described it back then, we're going to make victims' rights to the 90s what civil rights was to the 60s. And give, you know, victims a semblance of fairness and balance and being treated exactly the same as defendants have and have their rights as well. So Bob was very instrumental in getting a lot of different changes and talking about, you know, what it's like to be, you know, a victim, what it's like to lose a loved one, and what it's like to be thrust into this criminal justice system that at that time favored more of defendants than they did of the victims. I still have this in my office, and I kept it to this day, just because the article on Bob, it was just an amazing story of a man that was just, by no choice of his own, thrust into this system. And he took a negative and turned it into a positive. At that time, we found out victims' families were not allowed to witness the execution, which again, I thought was real strange. There was actually a policy, and it actually stated victims and family members are not allowed to attend the execution. And we just said, you know what, we're going to change that. And I contacted the chairman of the Texas Board of Criminal Justice at that time, Alan Polonsky. I ran it by him, and he said, you know what, I'm going to put this on the agenda at our next board meeting. You guys come down. And we went down, Corpus Christi testified, and they unanimously voted to change the policy.
Never even looked at me when he was laying on the ground. He turned around, and his last words were, "Parole me now, warden." And that was his last words. You know, it took about 3 minutes or whatever, and the doc went and checked him, and he was done. And then as the warden walked by him, he went, flipped the sheet over him, and that was it. It was like, yes, yes. Probably one of the most relief I've ever had in my life was watching him being executed. So I don't know, it's just, you know, life's different, life's different. I've got a son, and the thing that played on him, we laid on the floor in there in the living room, and he said, "Dad," he said, "after you and Mom are gone, I don't have anybody. I don't have my sister anymore. What do you say?" Lay on the floor and cradle him and try to tell him, you know, things are going to be okay. And they're not. They're not. What would life have been if it hadn't happened? There was 800 people that attended the funeral, and there was so many flowers here. They were stacked this deep. For a big area, there was like 2 trailer truck loads of flowers. You know, these 2 girls were inseparable from the time they met in the middle of the street. And when I'd go to pick up Kanara from my ex-wife's house, I wouldn't get to my house 5 minutes. My daughter'd be on the phone talking to Kristen, and she'd come out, "Daddy, can we go get Kristen?" And I'd have to turn around, drive right back over and get Kristen so they can come play Barbies at the house. The girls are where they're supposed to be. It's a beautiful cemetery. I don't come out as often as I used to, but it's very peaceful out here, very peaceful.